All right, Shabbosai, good morning, a good chodesh. Hope that everyone is well. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning. Share to thank our Talmud Torah sponsor for the month of Sivan, Haba Aleinu L'Tova, Stephen Terry Zinn, with gratitude to Hashem as they welcome their fifth grandchild, Gavriel Amichai Zinn, born to Shane and Eric Zinn in Rochester, New York, and a loving memory of Steve's mother, Doris Zinn, Devora Bas, Rabbi Yisrael Yoel, Zichron Livracha, on the occasion of her fourth yard site. We thank our Talmud Torah sponsors, Shani and Avram Kelman, from Eretz Yisrael, in commemoration of the yard site of Avram's father, Rafael Yechiel ben Avram. Jerome Kelman, Zichron Livracha, our week of learning sponsor, Hillary and Jacobs in Kent, in memory of her daughter, Shifra, Zichron Livracha, Bas Chana Dina. And our Daf Yomi sponsors for today, Gabi and Shana Cohn, in creation of the yard site of Gabi's grandfather, Mr. Meyer Axman, who was a pillar of this Kehillah for so many years. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the Neshamas Havan Aliyah, the families in Nechama, all those in the refuah shleimut heaven together with Kol Cholei Yisrael, our hostages in Meretz Hashem should come home b'shalom, and the car of our soldiers should be successful and should be a month of Besoros Tovos for Klal Yisrael. So with that, let us begin. A lot to do, not a lot of time. Today's daf is daf Kuf 100. We are picking up on Tzadik Tesama Beis 99b in an effort to start in the right place today. I believe we left off with, where did we leave off? Lemeimar? Where is that? Oh, Lememra. Got it. Lememra, the Rabbi Shmuel? Perfect. So let's remember again, we had a statement. Remember, let's see it. Remember the Rabbi Shmuel, so we'll say pretty much right in the middle of 99b. Remember the Rabbi Shmuel didn't have Yod Lav Kedin Gabah Dami. So we'll say based on Shmuel's statement, it would appear that we do not learn out we'll call it the laws of regular people from the laws of regular situation, Hedyot, from the laws of Hekdish. The Gemara says, is that true? V'hatanan we learned. So we actually began this case a little bit yesterday. V'hatanan, Natal Evan Okora Hekdish, lo mal. If a person goes ahead and takes a stone or a beam from Hekdish, the act of taking it by itself does not affect Mi'ila. Nasna lachavero humal. So ultimately, again, if he takes it and then he gives it to his friend, and the friend utilizes it, the friend has committed Mi'ila. So the Gemara says, however, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Nasla chaveru humal. If he gives it to his friend, the person who took it from Hekdish commits mi'ila. The chaveru lo mal. But ultimately, again, the friend who used it or who had it did not commit mi'ila. B'na'a b'soch beiso lo mal ad sheyidar tachteha. B'shaver pruta. If he goes and he takes the beam and he builds it into his home, he has not committed mi'ila until he utilizes it. Now, how do you utilize it in this case? By living underneath it and deriving the amount of hana, approximately a pruta's amount. So, what do you see from here? So, what do you see from here? What can you extrapolate from this halacha? You can learn from here, actually, we've seen this sugya, that if you live in your friend's chutzner without his knowledge, you have to go ahead and pay him rent. So remember again, we had this case of zenene v'zelo chaser. Ultimately, again, my friend has a rental property that he doesn't usually go ahead and rent out. I'm living there without telling him. I'm obligated to go ahead and pay him rent. So I'll say, so what do you see from here? What you see from here is we're learning out the halachos of hedyot, a regular situation, from the halachos of hekdish. We're saying just like by hekdish, you don't commit mi'ila until when? You don't commit mi'ila until you take the beam, build it into your house, and live underneath it, deriving a pruta's worth of benefit. Even though I will say, by living under the beam, what am I doing? What am I doing? In other words, I'm not diminishing the object. I'm not doing anything. Yet you see from here that just the mere act of deriving a pruta's worth of benefit from hekdish makes you chayiv. What does the Gemara do from there? The Gemara extrapolates from that. So too, if you live in someone's home without their knowledge, even though again you're not costing them anything, so to speak, halacha l'maaseh you have to pay. So what do you see from here? We're learning out the halachos of hedyot from hekdish, which contradicts what we said before. To which the Gemara says, you're right, Shmuel retracted this statement. Umimai demeahi haderbe. How do you know that Shmuel went ahead and retracted this statement? Dilma meha hader. So ultimately, maybe he retracted the statement about the figs, or the dates, excuse me, the tamarim, which is how this all started in yesterday's daf. To which the Gemara says, "Lo meahi haderbe kiderava." He retracted this other statement based on the statement of Rav Dama Rava, Hektish Shalom Midas, Kehayot Midas Dami. That ultimately, again, going ahead and benefiting from Hektish without the knowledge of Hektish is the equivalent of benefiting from Hedjot from a regular case, a regular person with his knowledge. Amar Rava, so what's another case? Hani shakuloi de tavru chavis de chamra lechen vena. So Rabbi said this is a very interesting case. Remember, this is a corollary case because remember again, how did this all start in yesterday's daf? In yesterday's daf, Shmuel spoke about a case where I steal a cake of pressed figs from Ruvain, right? So remember again, how many figs in the cake? Little Chazar, how many figs in the cake? 50. If you would go ahead and sell it as a cake, you would sell it for 49 zuz. That would be a little bit of like a wholesale discount. If you sell it fig by fig, ultimately it's worth a zuz. It's worth 1 zuz. So the shayla is, I steal that from Ruvain, what am I obligated to pay back? Am I obligated to pay back 50 zuz, the equivalent of 50 dates, or am I obligated to go ahead and pay back 49 zuz, the value of if they would have been sold as a whole? Okay, so now both say that was that whole sugya by Shmuel. So now both say the Gemara brings a similar case. There was a case of shakulai. What are shakulaim? Shakulaim are, Rashi says, no say masui, people who carry loads. That messenger, people who carry loads. So what happens? So they went ahead and they were carrying a barrel of wine for the shopkeeper, and they broke it. They broke it. So obviously, again, they're liable to pay back the barrel of wine. Now here's what's interesting. Now, on the market day, that barrel of wine would have sold for 5 zuzim. All right? On any other day of the week, it would have sold for 4, which makes sense, right? Because on the market day, right, it's supply and demand. There's a lot of people in the marketplace, so a lot of demand, limited amount of supply. Therefore, the price goes up. So on the market day, the barrel of wine is worth 5 zuz. Any other day, it's worth 4 zuz. So I say, so the shaila now is what? What do these guys? What do these shakuloi? What do they have to go ahead and pay back? So the Gemara says as follows: it depends. Ahadru lebiyom deshuka, mahadru lechavisa dechamra. So I say, so shar yomi mahadru lehei. So I say, so interestingly enough, if halacha lemaisa. If they're going out and they're paying him back on the market day, then they should really go ahead and pay him back with a barrel of wine. With a barrel of wine. However, again, b'shar yomi, any other day of the week, they just pay him back 5 zuz. 5 zuz. So what's interesting is paying back on the market day, paying back with a barrel of wine, right? Any other day, they have to pay him 5 zuz. Okay, so the Gemara says, but there's a qualification. But this is only true if he did not have wine to sell. What does this mean? Look at Rashi. So I will say, so when do they have to pay him back 5 zuz? In other words, what's interesting about this case is they have to pay him back 5 zuz any day of the week. Right? Any day of the week. Always have to pay 5. When is that so? When he only had this barrel of wine that they broke to sell. Because then that would have been the barrel of wine that he would have sold on the market day, and that would have represented a profit or a sale of 5 zuz. So they deprived him of 5 zuz. That's what they have to pay back. However, again, the Gemara says, "Aval havile chamra lezabune." But if he did have other wine to sell, and he didn't sell it, then he should have sold that wine. So the fact that he had wine to sell but didn't sell it indicates that they did not cause him a loss of 5 zuz, but rather they'd only be on the hook for what? For 4 zuz. So an interesting qualification. So the Gemara says essentially the halacha is like this. They have to pay him back a barrel of wine. In the absence of paying him back a barrel of wine, they pay 5 zuz. But that 5 zuz is only if mamish, the barrel that they broke, was the barrel that he had. It was the barrel that he had. So therefore, they deprived him of a 5 zuz sale. If he had other wine, right, in stock, and he did not end up selling that, then that indicates that the barrel that they broke may not have been sold on the day that they broke it, and therefore they'd only be obligated to go ahead and pay him back 4 zuz. All right, interesting case. So the Gemara says, Good. So how about this? Good. The Gemara says, however, another qualifications. Umenachi la agar tircha v'dami barzenaisa. However, I will say it is important to understand that they go ahead and from this amount, they are able to subtract other amounts. What are they able to subtract? Number one, agar tarichna. Agar tirche. Rashi says over here, agar tirche is no. It's okay. But translation agar tirche is the amount of exertion. In other words, they both say that he would have had to schlep the barrel. Now he didn't have to schlep the barrel because the barrel wasn't there. Or this is an interesting calculation, which is that halacha l'maisa, even though they deprived him of something, they also saved him from doing certain things. So because there was no barrel, there was no schlepping. That schlepping represented an amount of money that he would have had to spend. He didn't have to spend it. Similarly, again, Demei bar zenaisa, Rashi has two girsaos over here. Rashi has two girsaos. I'll just go with the second one. Demei bar zenaisa means he would have had to put a hole in the barrel, like a spigot in the barrel, to tap the barrel. So therefore, again, he didn't have to do that, obviously, because there was no barrel. So interestingly enough, as much as they caused him a loss, right, by breaking the barrel, they also, quote unquote, saved him from certain expenses. So therefore, again, when they pay back, it's an interesting way to look at it, when they pay back the amount of the loss, they're able to subtract from the loss the amount that he would have had to spend had he had the barrel, which they now, quote unquote, saved him because he didn't have the barrel. And I will say, it was interesting to notice, this is actually how the Rambam Paskins in Hilchos Schiros, Perek Gimel Halacha Gimel, Samol Shabar Sachav Sha'en Lechem, V'ni is Chayiv L'Shalim. So listen to this, it's actually an interesting case, right? So I am carrying a barrel of wine for Ruvain, and I break it. So we'll say, so this is the halacha. The halacha is, this is the exact same case, right? I go ahead and I'm carrying a barrel of wine for Ruvain. The barrel breaks. On the day of the shuk, the barrel is worth 5 zuz. Every other day, it's worth 4 zuz. So the halacha is, if I am going ahead and returning the object on the market day, I'm supposed to return a barrel of wine, which makes sense, right? Because on the market day, Reuven doesn't want money, right? What does he want on the market day? What does he want? He wants wine because he wants a saleable commodity. So pay him back wine. So therefore, you should, or you have to pay him ultimately 5 zuz, the amount that the wine is worth on the market day. So that's the halacha. Right, the Rambam gives the qualification. If he did have wine, he didn't have wine. Now, the Rambam also points out that when you pay back the money, you are permitted to go ahead and subtract from that. So the Gemara says, Torach shayot hareach upegam hanekev shayonokev achav v'sechol. Any associated expenses that would have been incurred with the preparation of that barrel could be subtracted. So I'll say, so it's an interesting, and that's halacha. It's an interesting Musar Haskell, if you think about it. What does this mean, right? You think about this. I broke Reuven's barrel. So now I'm going ahead and halacha l'maisa, paying him back for the barrel, and I have to pay him the value, either the actual barrel or the value of the barrel on the market day. But I could subtract from that the expenses that he would have incurred had he had the barrel. So what do you see from here? What's the Musar Haskell? So what's the Musar Haskell is that even in cases of loss, and even in cases of life setback, and even in difficult situations, there is always a gain. There's always a gain. There's always some way in which you are benefiting, even from the difficult situations in life. See here, Reuven lost his barrel of wine. So what does the halacha say? Hey, look on the bright side, right? You didn't have any schlepping. Look on the bright side, right? You didn't have to incur any expenses with tapping the barrel. That even in the most difficult circumstances in life, there is always something positive. There is always something beautiful. There is always some element of bracha, even in the moments of life breakage. Let's say let's go on with the Mishnah, Daf Kuf Amud Aleph. Hamachlif para b'chamar. So we've actually seen this case before. in Bava Kama, and it's actually an incredible case. So I'll say, so now, just to orient ourselves for a moment, we're talking about over here Chalipin. How does Kinyan Chalipin work? Kinyan Chalipin is a flip act of acquisition. So just to illustrate this in the easiest way, I have a cow, Reuven has a donkey. Reuven wants my cow, I want his donkey. So we utilize a Kinyan Chalipin. And what a Kinyan Chalipin says is, when one of us acquires the object, the other one automatically acquires the other object wherever it may be. So for example, right, Reuven and I are transacting this. I happen to have my cow handy. I don't go anywhere without it, right? So I have my cow, right? Reuven's donkey is in New Jersey. So what happens? Reuven and I are making this deal. We're like, okay, you know what? I'll exchange my cow for your donkey. Reuven does Mashicha. He takes my cow. The moment he takes my cow, I own that donkey. I'm the proud owner of a new donkey, right? So now, again, even though that donkey is in New Jersey, right? That donkey is far away. That donkey is not next to me. But Allah, again, once Reuven takes possession of the cow, I acquire the donkey. That's called the Kinyan Chalipin. So here we go. Hamachlif para b'chamar. So we exchanged. And I will say, and just appreciate the chiddush in that, right? Because again, we're hyper focused on this idea that acquisition always requires kinyanim, and certainly an animal requires a kinyan. So the Gemara says, "Amachlif para b'chamor." So watch this, v'yolda. Now here's the interesting case. The case over here is actually the truth is I should really flip it. I had the donkey, Reuven had the cow, right? So Reuven takes possession of my donkey. I acquire the cow, right? And the cow obviously is not in front of us. By the time I get my cow, right, Mazel Tov, the cow gave birth. So you see where this is going, right? You see where this is going in just a moment, well, or not. Gemara says, Shivcha Sav Yalda, or same idea, we did a Chalipin with the Shivcha, with the maidservant. So whatever, I gave Reuven, a watch, and he went ahead and I acquired his Shivcha, right? The Shivcha also, again, is not here right now. So now what happened in both of these cases? So the cow gave birth, the Shivcha gave birth. Now, of course, the point of contention is going to be, Ze Omer, Ad shelo macharti, v'zeh omer mishalakachti. So here's where the machlokes comes, right? Where does the machlokes come up? The machlokes is, I claim, so let's play this out, right? So I'm acquiring Reuven's cow. Now by the time I get to the cow is a calf. I claim that clearly the cow gave birth after I acquired it, and therefore the calf belongs to me. Reuven says, no, the cow gave birth before the Kinyan Chalipin, and therefore the cow belongs to me. Parallel case by the Shivcha, right? I claim that the Shivcha gave birth once I acquired her. Reuven claims, no, the Shivcha gave birth before I sold her. What's the halacha? Yachloku. So they split it. Right? They split the proceeds of the calf of the offspring. Okay. Hayula beis avadim echad gadol v'echad katan. V'chein beis sados echad gedol v'achas ketana. So we're saying, now watch this. Reuven has two fields, right? Two fields, a big field and a small field. Two avadim, right? A big eved and a small eved. Now what happens? I'm purchasing one of these items from Reuven. Halokeach omer gadol lakachti. I claim that I purchased the large field or the large eved. V'halo omer ini yodea. And Reuven says, I don't know. Now, obviously, we're talking about a case over here also where the purchase price is not reflective of what it is that I bought. Because obviously, if the purchase price is reflective, you can see it in the money that was spent. Let's assume right now, again, or in a case of Chalipin, where remember, again, Chalipin doesn't have to be tethered to value. In other words, when you do this exchange act of a kinyan, the two items need not be of similar value. So in this case over here, I'm claiming, Reuven, I bought the larger field from you. Reuven's claiming, I don't know. So what's the halacha? Zacha begadol. So we'll say, so again, I acquired the larger field. We'll say this is reminiscent of our last sugya. What was our last sugya? Bari v'shema, bari adif. When you have two claims, a certain claim and an uncertain claim, the certain claim carries the halachic day. Next, hamocher amar katan macharti v'hala omer eni yodea. So we'll say, so similarly with the reverse case. Reuven claims, Silber, I sold you the small field. I'm like, you know what? I don't know. What's the halacha? Ein lo ela katan. All I have is the small field. I only have the rights to the small field. Ze omer gadol v'ze omer katan. What if you have a machlokes? This is bari v'bari. I'm claiming, Reuven, I know you sold me the larger field. Reuven's claiming, I know I only sold you the smaller field. What's the halacha? Yishava hamocher sha'katan machar. In this case, the seller swears that he only sold the smaller field. Again, so we'll talk about the mechanics of all of these cases inside of the Gemara. Zeh Omer, Eini Yodeh, V'Zemer Eini Yodeh. So what happens if they both claim I don't know? Right? I'm not sure which field I bought. Reuven's not sure which field he sold. One thing we all know is we're both terrible businessmen, right? That's for sure. Right? Neither of us know what we sold or what we bought. So what's the halacha? Yachloku. In that case, we'll say we split it. We split it. Beautiful. Abba say, let's go. Amayach loku. Abba say, let's talk about the first case. Let's talk about the first case, right? So halacha l'maisa again. We're doing an act of chalipin. I have a donkey. Reuven has a cow, right? The donkey is present. The cow is off-site. So now what happens? Reuven takes possession of the donkey. This is a flip act of acquisition. He acquires the donkey. I acquire the cow. We get to the cow. Mazel tov, the cow is given birth. I claim that the cow gave birth after the kinyan chalipin, so the calf is mine. Reuven claims the cow gave birth before the chalipin. The calf is his. So what does the Mishnah say? Yachloku, we split it. The Gemara says, I don't understand. Am I yachloku? V'lechse birshus deman kaima v'lehave ida chamotzi mechaber alavaraya. I don't understand what to say. Why? Why don't we see it like this? Right? At the end of the day, let's see whose possession the cow/calf is in. That's the person who has the chazak of being the owner. And again, I will say ownership is 9/10 of the law, or possession is 9/10 of the law. Right? Whoever has possession, let the other guy be motzi mechaber alavaraya. What's the shayla? Rabbi Shmuel ba'agam. Rabbi say the case over here is where interestingly, you're right. If the cow was in Reuven's backyard, enochinami, you'd be right. You'd be right. If the cow was in Reuven's barn, so then listen, Reuven would be the muchzak, he would have the chazaka, and therefore again, if I wanted to claim that the cow gave birth after the kinyan chalip and it was already mine, I would have to prove that. Because again, Reuven has the chazaka, the cow is in his possession. What's the case? The case is where the cow is in neither of our reshuyos. It's in neither of our domains. Right? It's just wandering. Or literally, aga means the swamp. So therefore, again, neither of us have the chazaka. The Gemara says, "V'shivcha nami dekaima b'simta." You can say the same thing also with the shivcha, because remember again, the Mishnah brings down two parallel cases: one of an animal and one of a shivcha. The shivcha case would be where the shivcha, she had given birth, but she's standing, in an alleyway. So l'maisa again, she's in neither of our properties. I v'nuk miacheskas demara kama v'lehave ida chamatzi mechaver lavaraya. But again, so the way halacha works is, even if something is not currently situated in someone's possession or someone's domain, let's establish its status based on its last known domain. Okay, so got it. Right now the cow is standing in the swamp. Where was the last known domain of the cow? And the answer is Reuven's property. And therefore, again, I should be amotzi mechaver alav haraya. The burden of proof to extract it should be on me. The Gemara says, no, hamani sumchos. So we'll say, whose opinion is reflected in our Mishnah? It's sumchos. What does sumchos say? The amar, maman hamutal b'safek cholkin, below shvua. So we'll say, see, here it is, and we already knew this was coming, because we already saw this already again in previous Gemaras. We know sumchos. Sumchos is of the opinion. They will say essentially, Sumchos doesn't really hold of Hamotz. He holds of Hamotz Michaver Lavaraya, but essentially what he says is, whenever you have a doubt regarding monetary claims, split it. Right? Maman Hamotz B'Safek, you have money, you're not sure what to do with it, how to resolve it, split the money without a Shavua. So says, 1 second. Eimer da Amar Sumchos b'Shema v'Shema. That might be true. Maybe Sumchos only holds that, but say when both parties have a weak claim, like neither party knows what's going on. Right? So I'm in a financial dispute with Reuven. Like for example, some of these other cases in Mishnah where neither Reuven nor I are making a definitive claim. So that's when we'll say that halacha l'maisa maman amotel b'safek is cholkin. However, again, bebari ubari mi amar. Did Sumchos really say this with bari ubari? Now, I will say, by the way, the paradigmatic case of Sumchos, if you remember again, I will say from our Bava Kama days, Rashi quotes it, where my ox gores Reuven's cow, and Reuven's cow miscarries. Right? So we'll say, so now, what's the shaila? So here's what we see when we come to the scene. We see my ox, right, Reuven's cow, and the aborted fetus, right? That's what we see. What don't I know? Did the cow miscarry before the goring or after the goring? So that's where Sumchos says, that's actually where Sumchos espouses his idea of Maman Hamotel B'Safek Cholkin. That's the case where he says this. So the Gemara says, well, we'll say that's a case of Shema v'Shema. That's a case of, the truth is, obviously, I'm going to make the claim that it happened before the goring, right? And everybody's going to make the claim that it happened after the goring. But the truth is, neither of us know. Neither of us know. So Gemara is suggesting maybe that's the case where Sumchus says, Maman amotel b'safek cholkin, where neither of us have a definitive claim. Aval, the Gemara says, B'bariu bari mi amar. I will say, but in the case of bariu bari, remember again, like our Mishnah. So I will say, in the case of bariu bari, for example, I'm claiming the cow gave birth after the chalipin. Reuven's claiming the cow gave birth before the chalipin. This is a case where we're both making definitive claims. So the Gemara says, does Sumchus still say, Maman amotel b'safek cholkin, Amar Rav Huna in Amar Sumchus afilu b'bariu bari. Rav Huna says, yeah, Sumchus actually did say that, even in a case of bariu bari. Rava says like this: Li'olam ki Amar Sumchus shema v'shema ava bari ubari lo. So we'll say Rava really says it's not true. Sumchus really only says Maman hamotel b'safek cholkin only in a case where neither party has a definitive claim, what we call Shema Ushema. But in a case of Bari Ubari, we do not say that. So what's going on in our Mishnah? V'su, Ze Omer Shema Ad Shalom Acharti, V'ze Omer Shema Mishalakachti. And rather, I will say, how do you have to read the Mishnah? So Rabbi says, actually, you have to go ahead and reframe the Mishnah. So I will say, so this is actually very interesting. According to Rava, the way you have to read it is, neither party is making a definitive claim, both parties are making a possible claim. So I'm doing an act of chalipin with Reuven. I'm giving him my donkey for his cow. So I go ahead and he takes, I have my donkey here. He takes possession of the donkey, does Mashicha, I acquire the cow. By the time we both get to the cow has given birth. So according to Rava, the way the case of the Mishnah works like this, I say, perhaps, this cow gave birth after the act of chalipin, and Reuven says, well, perhaps the cow gave birth before the act of chalipin. So this is a case of Shema v'Shema. Neither of us have a definitive claim, and therefore Alocha L'maisa, the Mishnah says Yachloku, because that's the position of Sumchus, of Mammon Hamotel B'Safek Yachloku. When you have doubt about a monetary claim, you split the money between the parties. So Rabbi says, so now what we are left with is actually very exciting. What we are left with over here is a fundamental machlokes, Rabba and Rava, about the position of Sumchus. Everyone agrees Sumchus' position is Mammon Hamutel B'Safek Cholkin. Whenever you have a doubt about money, right, a doubt about monetary claims, two opposing claims, split it. The shaila is, when do we apply that? So Rabba is going to say we applied it in all cases. Definitive claims, non-definitive claims, certain claims, uncertain claims. Rava says we only apply that in uncertain claims. Okay, so just hold on to that, because that's going to keep on surfacing. Tanan, Ze Omer Eni Yodea v'Ze Omer Eni Yodea Yachloku. Rava says the Mishnah quoted a case of, let's say again, where I buy a piece of property from Reuven, or I buy anything from Reuven, right? And again, we're not sure about the details of the sale, and I'm not sure, and Reuven's not sure. So what's halacha? Yachloku, we split it. So the Gemara said, Bishlam of the Rava. So according to Rava, this makes sense. Be the seifa Shema v'Shema, Reisha nami Shema v'Shema. So we'll say, so the Mishnah is symmetrical. All of the Mishnah's cases of Yachloku, of splitting it, are all cases of non-definitive claims. But according to Rabbi who says that Sumchus even holds Maman Hamutel B'Safek Yachloku, even by Bariu Bari, that when you have a doubt about a monetary claim, even if both sides are making definitive claims, you still split the money. So I don't understand. Hashta Bariu Bari Amri Yachloku Shema v'Shema Bai. So I'll say, if that's the case, then if Sumchus has already espoused this in a case of Bariu Bari, which is the first case in the Mishnah, so Sumchus is already saying that Maman Hamutel B'Safek is Yachloku, even in a case of Bari Ubari, so then I'll certainly say it in a case of Shema Ushema. Why does the Mishnah have to quote a latter case of Shema Ushema? I'll tell you why. Imi Shumha Lo Irya. I'll tell you why you need it. Tana Sefer Legaluya Reisha. The Sefer, will say, comes to shed light on the Reisha. How so? Shelo Tomar Reisha Shema v'Shema. So will say, you might have thought that the Reisha is a case like we thought originally, that the Reisha is a case of non-definitive claims or uncertain claims. Both sides are claiming uncertainty. Aval Bari Ubari Lo. But you might have thought that maybe in a case of Bari Ubari, both sides are making certain claims. maybe Sumchos does not hold of his particular position. Therefore, Tana Seifa, Shema v'Shema, Michlal Dereisha, Bari ubari, Va'afilu hachi yachloku. Therefore, both say the Mishnah introduces the case of the Seifa, which is Shema Shema. Both are making uncertain claims, and that shows you that the Reisha is talking about a case of Bari ubari, and despite that, Sumchos still holds that Allah Lamaise again yachloku. So both say, so bottom line, just to keep in mind, what's driving this entire Mishnah right now is a machlokes on the position of Sumchos. Sumchos, here's you have to remember, Sumchos espouses a concept. What's the concept? Mamon hamutal b'safei yachloku. Whenever you have money that is shrouded in doubt, and obviously we don't have eidos or other ways to resolve the doubt, split it. Split it, that's it. The shaila is, they always say, by the way, what's the contra idea? What's the opposing idea to Sumchos? Hamotzi mechaber alav haraya. That's the opposing idea. Hamotzi mechaber alav haraya says, no, that's not the way it works. It works whoever has it, has it, and the burden of proof is upon the extractor. Now the machlokes supposed to say is in Sumchos, when do we apply that idea? So again, Rava says we only apply that idea in a case of Shema or Shema, where both sides are making uncertain claims, right? Neither knows what's going on over here. Okay, the whole thing is shrouded in ambiguity, therefore split it. Rava says no. Even in a case where both sides are making definitive claims, we still will say Maman Amutal B'Safek Yachlokus. So that's the Machlokus that's going to keep running through. Let's go back to here we go. Tanan Ze Omer Gadol V'Ze Omer Katan Yishava Hamocher Shakatan Machar. So what's the next case in the Mishnah? Right? I bought a field from Reuven. So what happens? Reuven has a large field and a small field. The purchaser, I'm claiming that I bought the large field. Reuven is claiming he only sold the small field. So what's the halacha? Yishava hamocher shakatan machar. So in this case, they're both making definitive claims. Reuven, the seller, has to swear that he only sold the small field. So bishlama l'Rava, the amar ki amar sumchos shema v'shema, aval bari ubari lo mishum hachi yishava. So I'll say this makes sense according to Rava. Why? Because Rava holds that sumchos only says maman amota b'safek cholkin when in shema v'shema, uncertain claims. Therefore, this is a case of certain claims, right? Both parties over here are making certain claims. And therefore, Allah Lamaisa makes sense. There's no cholkin, because again, I'm definitively claiming big field. Reuven is definitively claiming small field. So what do we do in this case? There's an oath. There's no yachloku. El Rama Baravuna the Amar in Amri Sumchos Afilu Bari Ubari Amayi Shava Mochar Yachlokumi Baile. So what says Allah Lamaisa again? I don't understand. According to Rava, according to Rabbah, where Simchos holds Maman Amot B'Safek is Cholkin, even by Bari Ubari. So in this case over here, we still should split the difference. What's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, no. Modes Simchos Heicha Diika Shvua Da'araisa Ki Deba'inan Lemeimar Lekaman. So also we are going to see that Simchos agrees, I will say, in a case where there is a biblically generated shvua that you have to swear and don't automatically split. Now, what that means, I will say we're not 100% sure about yet. What biblically generated shvua are we talking about over here? Now, it sounds like that maybe what we're talking about over here is a mod de b'miktsas, right? Because listen to this, right? Reuven has two fields, a big field and a large field, a big field and a small field. I'm claiming, I the purchaser, I'm claiming, which one did he sell me? The big field. Reuven's claiming, I didn't say the big field, I sold you the small field. So maybe that's a mod de b'miktsas, right? A partial admission, because it's not like he's saying I didn't sell you anything. He's saying I didn't sell you, the big one. I sold you the little one. So maybe that's mod de b'miktsas. Maybe mod de b'miktsas. So that's what it sounds like. So because it's a mod de b'miktsas generates a biblically obligated oath, and the biblically obligated oath Sumchos dispenses with maman amotel b'safek cholkin. That's what it sounds like. Let's go back to. We'll see exactly what it is. Let's go. Hayu lo beis avadim echad gadol v'echad katan. So remember again. So the last part of the Mishnah was that two avadim or two fields. So again, was the case you just mentioned. Let's just go with fields, right? I'm claiming I'm the purchaser. I bought the big one. Reuven's claiming he only sold the small one. So what did the Mishnah say? Yishava hamocher shakatan machar. So Reuven, the seller, has to swear that he only sold me the small one. The Gemara says, I don't understand. Amai yishava. So I'll say now again. So it sounds like over here that this is a mod de b'miktsas, but I don't understand why. The Gemara says, Masha tanu lo hodalo, or Masha hodalo lo tanu. Tanu. We'll say, in general, the halacha is like this. The halacha is, in order to generate the shvuah, the claim and the admission have to be of the same thing, right? In other words, if the claims don't align, then there can't be an obligation for shvuah, right? So, for example, just a simple example, right? If I claim, I claim, Ruvain, I lent you $1,000, and Ruvain says, you never lent me $1,000, but you did lend me a shovel. That's not modeh b'miktsas. Right? Why? Because the claims have nothing to do with each other. So the Gemara says, I don't understand, why is the case of the Mishnah modeh b'miktsas? I'm claiming Ruvain sold me a big field. Right? Ruvain is claiming I only sold you a small field. Let's say, b'pashtos, what are we talking about over here? Two different fields. If that's the case, the claims are mismatched. If they're mismatched, then why is there any shvuah? To which the Gemara says, here we go, furthermore, I'm going to say this is a case of halach. Rashi says, what's halach? So we'll see this as well. The Gemara says this is a case of halach. Halach means when the item ultimately, again, that is being admitted to, in this case, the small field, is immediately present in front and can be immediately taken. We're going to explain this more in just a bit. In the case of halach, there is no shvuah. Va'od, ein nishpan ala avadim. Furthermore, again, I will say, you don't take a shvuah on avadim. Right? Again, there's no shvuah when it comes to avadim. That's because, again, bepashtos, we're going to see that avadim are like karka, and therefore, again, no shvuah on avadim. Amarav, so we'll say, what's the case over here? You're right. Betono dummy. Demei evet gadol, demei evet katan, demei sada gadol, demei sada ketana. So we'll say, Rav reinvents the case. So we'll say, here's the case. Right? Reuven claimed that he gave me money to purchase a large field. Right, or a small field, or actually it makes sense, large field, right? Large field. Rashi says over here, so right, Reuven claims he gave me money for a large field. I claim he only gave me money for a small field. So we'll say, so now this is a modeh b'miktsas case. This is a modeh b'miktsas case, and again, the claims are aligned because the claims are for money. Same thing with the avadim. So the Gemara says, Shmuel says, Betono ksus eved gadol, ksus eved katan, omri sadik gdola, omri sadik kitana. Shmuel says it's a case of where, again, we're not disagreeing about the eved, rather what are we disagreeing about? The clothing of the eved. So I'm claiming, Reuven's claiming that that I owe him the clothing large eved, or large adult clothing. I'm claiming I only own small clothing. Or for that matter, again, sheaves of the field. Now, sheaves of the field are both say make a lot of sense because sheaves are sheaves. The Gemara says, 1 second, Amud Beis, ksus, if we're getting into clothing, once again we have a problem. Masha tano lahodalo, masha hodalo lotano. Now we'll say, if Reuven is claiming, right, if Reuven is claiming adult clothing and I'm admitting to children's clothing or smaller clothing or vice versa, then once again our claims are not aligned. So what's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, Amra Papa bidi yalfi. So I'll say, Hakana bidi yalfi. So this is interesting. What's yalfi? Rashi says, Shebeget shalim haya v'adayin mechubar ze omer ksus kedola macharti lecha v'zomer ksus ketana. So I'll say yalfi apparently was this type of clothing that you would make it bigger or smaller by attaching different patches to it. So in other words, it's the same article of clothing. It's just the shaila of how many patches were there. So I'm claiming, Reuven, you sold me a large article of clothing with more patches, right? Reuven's claiming I only sold you a smaller article of clothing with less patches. So as such, the claims themselves are aligned because it's the same article. The shaila just is how big or small that particular article is. Okay? So Kashi Rabbi Oshia. So I'll say this whole thing didn't make any sense according to Rabbi Oshia. Why? Because he said, Midi ksus katani, eved katani. It's very nice how you're trying to reinterpret the case, but that's not what the Mishnah says, right? The Mishnah is not dealing with a clothing case. What is the Mishnah dealing with? The Mishnah is dealing with an eved case, right? The Mishnah explicitly says that we're talking about a scenario over here of avadim, of slaves. So what's going on over here? Ela Amar Rabbi Oshia, kegon shetanu eved biksuso v'sada be'omra. So we'll say, so now listen to this. What's the case? The case is where there's a dual claim, right? I am claiming that Reuven sold me a large eved with its clothing or a large field with its sheaves, and Reuven is claiming I only sold you a small eved with its clothing or a small field with its sheaf. Va'akati. So I will say, so once again, now we come back full circle. Rashi says over eved gadol b'ksuso, v'zeh modelo be'eved katan uksuso, v'mechuyev shvua mishum ksus. So I will say, so remember again, assuming that you can't take an oath on avadim for reasons we have not yet seen, right? So ultimately, again, when the claim over here is twofold. It's the claim for an eved and its clothing. So therefore, again, even if you can't swear because of the eved, you can swear because of the claim or the dispute regarding clothing. Here's the problem with clothing. The problem with clothing is what? The claims don't align. The Gemara says, so I'll say, so clothing, again, I'm claiming one type of clothing and Reuven is admitting to a different type of clothing, to which again Rapapa says, I'm Rapapa dialfi. So I'll say, so once again, halacha l'maisa, Rapapa says, talking about the patch clothing. So therefore, again, it's considered to be the same type of claim. Why? Because I will say, essentially, it's the same article of clothing. The shaila just is how many patches would be attached to it. Okay, so the Gemara says, so based on what you're saying, so the Gemara says, so I'll say, so essentially the way Rabbi Shia is setting up the case is like this. I am claiming, Reuven, you sold me a large eved with its clothing. Reuven's claiming, I only sold you a small eved with its clothing. We're talking about patch clothing, so therefore, again, it's the same garment. The shaila just says how many patches are on it. So therefore, what is the Mishnah teaching me? What does the Mishnah say? Reuven has to swear that he only sold me a small eved with its small clothing. Okay, so I'll say, so now what's the chiddush? So the chiddush is, you can't really take an oath generally on avadim. Right? So what is Reuven swearing about? What is he swearing about? He's swearing about the clothing. But once you're swearing about the clothing, you could also what? Swear about the eved. So is that the takeaway? So the Gemara says, so kashli Rav Sheshes, zokikin asla ashmoinan. So ultimately, Rav Sheshes says, I don't understand. So according to Moshe, according to this, is the Mishnah coming to teach us the concept of zokakin, that which is like Gilgul, right? That once you're swearing on one thing, we can make you swear on other things that you would not normally be obligated to swear about. So we learned that. We learned that halach already. Tanina zokakin on achasim she'ein la'en achrayas as an achasim she'esh la'en achrayas l'shav alein. We've already learned that concept. That once you're swearing about A, so swearing about A could force you to swear about B, even though normally B would not be something that you'd be obligated to swear about. Let's say rather again, whose opinion is the Mishnah? Here we go. It's Rabbi Meir. The Amar Avda Kimetaltalin Dami. Wow, here it is, Rabbi. Here it is. This is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds that an eved is not like karka. What is an eved like? An eved is like metaltalin. And because an eved is like metaltalin, movable property, therefore, you could take a shvua regarding avadim. That's the chiddush. That's the chiddush of the Mishnah. Vakati, mashetano lo hodolo, umashehodolo lo tano. So I will say, but still halacha l'maisa, there's still disalignment of claims, right? Because remember, think about this for just a moment. If I'm claiming a big eved and Reuven's admitting to a little eved, there's disalignment. If there's disalignment, how does that trigger a shvua? So let's listen to this. Because the Tana holds like Rabbi Gamliel. What does Rabbi Gamliel say? Disnan tanu chitin v'hodlo sorim pater. We'll say in a general case, right? If I claim, Reuven, you sold me chitim, and Reuven says, not only sold you barley, it's pater, right? There's no shvua because again, there's a disalignment of claims. Rabbi Gamliel mechai, Rabbi Gamliel says yichai. So the Rabbi say, what we're doing over here is we are combining two different sheets in order to make the Mishnah work. Number one, Rabbi Meir, who holds that avadim are metaltalin, not karka, right? Therefore, you could swear about an eved. And number two, that you don't need complete alignment of claims in order to trigger a moed b'mikzas. So a lot of wiggling in order to make the Mishnah work. Akati helechu. I will say, but aren't we dealing over here still with the case of helech? Amarava avda dekata liyadei v'sada shechafar ba borin sichin uma'aros. We must know a case where I will say that's what? That immediately after the transaction, what happened? Halacha is actually interesting, right? Immediately after the transaction, Reuven cut off the hand of the eved. or Reuven went ahead and dug furrows in the field. In other words, Rabbi say he changed the object. He changed the object after the transaction, and therefore again the object was not readily available for delivery. Rabbi, so we have to stop over here. I'm going to try actually to record a bit more so we can get a normal start at the Mishnah tomorrow. Rabbi say tremendous. And we packed in a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. That 5 minutes that we lose on Rosh Chodesh really impacts us. Rabbi say tremendous shkoyach and a beautiful week together. A good Chodesh should be zochah to make this a month filled with Talmud Torah, with Aliyah, with growth, with Islavus. Emir Hashem shkoyach Chavra. All right, Hossein on Zoom, have a great Shabbos. Chavra Eretz Yisrael. Beautiful. I think there's more Chavra Eretz Yisrael here than in Chutz La'aretz. What a tremendous chus. Have a good Shabbos. One day I'll be zochah to join you. Emir Hashem. Good Shabbos, everyone.